Wow.
Sri Lanka is a country widely known for its people, its culture, its food, but a slightly lesser known fact about Sri Lanka is Yala National Park has the highest density of leopards per kilometre in the whole world, which means booking a safari at Yala National Park is a popular thing to do in Sri Lanka because you've got a very high chance of seeing a leopard. When I've always thought of safaris, I've thought of Africa, but this safari here in Sri Lanka has elephants, buffalo, leopards, and many more animals that hopefully you'll get to see. The big catch with this is you are in the wild. You are never guaranteed to see anything, but regardless of what we were going to see today, our big hope was to see a leopard. We had 10 days on our trip to Sri Lanka, but we only had one opportunity to go to Yala National Park and one day to go there to do this safari. So we booked our accommodation in a little town just outside of Yala National Park, about 30 minutes out, called Tissamaharama. Organised our safari through our accommodation. So we set off for a 3-hour drive in our rented Tuk Tuk to head to Yala National Park before a bright and early 4 a.m. start the next day.
So it is currently 4:20 in the morning, and today we are heading out to Yala National Park. Yala National Park has the highest density of leopards in the whole world, so your chances of seeing one are much higher than anywhere else on Earth.
After getting picked up just after 4:30 a.m. and arriving just after 5 a.m. at the entry gates to Yala, we queued up for a little while and entered at 6 a.m. when the park opened, which meant it was game on. The search for a leopard and other animals had begun. Soon after arriving at Yala, or even in the queue up for Yala, you will notice that you are far from the only Jeep or safari that is going to be in the park that day. But that does not mean that you won't see wildlife because of it. Almost immediately after entering the park, we saw a huge saltwater crocodile just chilling by a waterhole. Despite the volume of visitors and vehicles in the park, you've still got a real sense of being out in the wilderness and in nature, especially driving through the park when the sun is rising and looking out over the bush and the trees and the water. It was genuinely an amazing experience. And very soon after seeing the crocodile, almost just a couple of minutes, we were spoiled again by elephants coming out into the road. We had had the best possible start we could have had in Yala. We had seen crocodiles, elephants within 10 to 15 minutes of being there. We'd even seen monitor lizards and buffalo. And because the sun was rising, it was a perfect setting to see wild animals, even seeing another crocodile. This was when our guide got alerted that there was a leopard sighting somewhere in the park. So we got there as soon as we could and hoped that this might be our chance. This was the spot where the leopard was last sighted. We spoke to other guides and we were hopeful that this was the time we were going to see the leopard. So we waited and waited and looked, but this time we weren't lucky. Even though we hadn't seen a leopard yet, the morale and spirit in the camp had not dropped off just yet. We were still hopeful and we were looking around, enjoying the scenery, taking it all in. And whilst we couldn't see leopards, the elephants were keeping the safari alive and keeping the dream alive. Some information about Yala National Park safaris. There's going to be around about 6 of you that fits in each vehicle. Halfway through the morning, you're going to stop off, get a toilet break and have a chance to buy some drinks or eat some food. Your guide, or at least our guide, provided breakfast. That was included in the price. The price for our safari was $58 per person, and that included breakfast, pick up and drop off at our accommodation, as well as entry fee to the park, which is usually $25 per person if it's not included. After the pit stop for food and toilet, we got back searching for the leopard, and the hunt was still very much on. We were still confident, there was still promise, and we were still hopeful that today we would get to see a leopard. The only issue with this is after we were searching for a little while, even though we still had plenty of time left, the reported sightings of a leopard had stopped coming in, and our guide and the general sentiment around the park seemed to be a little less hopeful. People seemed to be looking for leopards in the same way we were, where we were just glancing up at trees, glancing into the bush, but no one seemed to come back with any promise that anyone had actually seen anything, which is when we got to see the highlight of our day. Elephants close up walking right past our vehicle, locked in with their trunks and just playing and doing their usual stuff that they would do in the wild that rarely you would ever get to see anywhere else in the world. For us, even though we didn't get to see a leopard this day, it was still very much worth visiting Yala National Park. It is crowded with vehicles, but you do get a sense of being in nature, being amongst the animals and seeing them in their natural habitat, which for us being from the UK is something we've never been able to do before. And I know many people around the world don't get a chance to see animals like this on a regular basis. Yeah, we were disappointed. We were gutted. We didn't get to see the leopard that we had traveled to Yala to actually see. But on the other hand, we got to see elephants, monkeys, buffalo, crocodiles, and much, much more, which was still an amazing experience. I would recommend Yala National Park, but I would also say just go there with an open mind and expect there to be a lot of vehicles, and respect the fact that you are in nature and nothing is guaranteed, which I guess in some degree we took for granted and kind of put our hopes a little bit too high. We've heard from some people there's a 20% chance of seeing a leopard, from some people there's an 80% chance of seeing a leopard, and from some people there's a 50-50 chance. I don't know what the exact numbers are. All I do know is we didn't get to see one, but that wouldn't put us off from coming back to Yala again in hope to seeing a leopard in the future. Guys, this was a great day and will be one of the highlights from our trip in Sri Lanka. If you get the chance, I would still suggest do it, and just bear in mind that you are in the wild, nothing's guaranteed, and there will be a lot of tourists and visitors, especially if you come in the high season like we did. I appreciate you tuning in, and I'll catch you in the next one.